All right, what's up, guys? Turn this music down, please. All right, obviously we had some serious drama go down yesterday. I'm gonna give you guys a few more minutes to join in as we get prepared for the show today. What's up, Zach? Obviously, Zach, we had some crazy stuff go down yesterday. I don't know if you, I know, I'm sure you guys, I'm sure you know Zach from the Florida Stetson game. I mean, just like it. If I was a coach, you would have had to hold me back for Stetson. Wait. Yeah, that Stetson game was insane. 1 second, I gotta check something. I think I have another game today in high school. I thought it was tomorrow, but it's later in the day, so it's not. I'm not gonna have to leave this early. Okay, I need to go. I will be right back. I gotta just tell my wife. Didn't they protest the game, Coog? Yeah, they did. They did. Um, I will be right back. 2 minutes, guys. All right, we're back. What's up, guys? My face is in the camera. Yeah, anyway, that was a surprise. I thought our game was tomorrow, but it's today. So I had to make sure my wife knew. Okay. So yeah, Coug, they protested. They protested the game. So we'll see what happens. I mean, again, it's like, what do you replay the game? I mean, it's just like, do you replay the game from the blown call? Zach, the new safety bag is already having an impact. Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like, so you have to touch the safety bag. Like, can you imagine these kids their whole lives? There's been one base, and then they put this safety bag on there, which to me, I'm just like, why do we need a safety bag? Like, can you guys explain to me why you need a safety bag? BA, good morning from California. Sorry I didn't see you earlier, man. Hey, welcome back. Like, why do we need a safety bag, guys? Zach, why do they have a safety bag at the D1 level? This isn't Little League. 100%, dude. Like, is there an epidemic of? I almost said pandemic. Is there an epidemic of like first baseman getting into collisions or something? How about we teach guys how to have fundamental footwork around the bag at first? How about we do that? Because this poor kid puts the ball in play, does his job, right? 2 outs, puts the ball in play, hustles down the line, beats it out. And then you look at the replay and he touched the base. I mean, from the picture I saw, his foot's like in the middle, right? It's like half on the, which to me, is that going to cause injuries where there's like, the bases touching each other? And anyway, it's like, why do we have that safety bag? But to me, I mean, there's clear pictures on social media. I'll try to bring it up. I know 11.7 covered it really well. Obviously, they do a great job. Great college baseball coverage if you guys like 11.7 or college baseball stuff. Why is it not coming up? There we go. Okay. Let me see here. Yeah, here's it. Let me pull it up. All right, let's just stream this. You guys give me your opinion. I mean, he's definitely touching the safety bag, right? Like he's definitely touching that, right? All right, we can zoom in. I mean, all right, it's not letting me zoom in. Never mind. But you guys get the point, right? Like he's definitely touching that. So what's the call? Like his foot's not, like you only have to touch the bit. As long as you just touch the base with 1% of your foot, it counts. So why is this? How did this get overturned is my question. How did this get overturned? Replay couldn't see this? I mean, this picture is clear as day. Like half of his foot, or actually majority of his foot is on the safety bag. To me, like someone explain it to me like I'm 5, how this kid was ruled out. How was this kid ruled out? And it's disgusting for Stetson, right? Because they're trying a lot of mid-major upsets yesterday, and we're gonna get into it. But how does, like, what is the kid supposed to do? It would be restarted in the 7th inning where the call happened. I'm assuming with him on second or on first if it got overturned. I mean, it's just how does that call get made? How does the replay booth say, yeah, he didn't touch the base? And are you like Zach? Are you not allowed to touch the regular base now on a play on a ground ball? Like, are you not allowed to touch the actual base? Like, surely that extra base is just there to give you a lane, but you don't have to touch it. I mean, explain it to me again. Fundamentals aren't being taught anymore. I was at a JUCO game yesterday where a team missed 3 infield pop-ups in 1 inning. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, I've told you guys this. It's just like defense and baseball IQ and fundamentals across the board are getting worse and worse. There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. And again, that call was just ridiculous. I mean, I didn't see it. I didn't see it live. I saw it this morning. Right. And I think I saw a video or something that was explaining it. And I'm like, okay, I didn't see the replay. And then I see that picture and I'm like, wait, how does that even get overturned? How does a replay booth not have a good enough angle to say, yeah, he touched the safety bag? But again, is he not Nope, you have to touch. Okay, so you have to touch the safety bag, Jared. But these bases aren't at all fields, which makes it a bit worse. Yeah, I mean that does make it worse, right? If there's some Division One games that aren't using safety bags, like to me as a base runner, like that would be slightly confusing. Kyle, I'm sure you teach your team how to properly run the bases and where they should step on the base. Yeah, step on the front corner of the base if you're trying to, if you want to be safe. Don't step on top. Don't step on the back half. Step on the very front corner with like the arch of your foot, the very front corner. And again, it's like that used to be kind of like common sense. You were taught that when you were like 10 years old. Um, but it's just crazy. Um, it's crazy to me, man. I mean, it's I don't know how that got overturned. I totally understand Stetson being super like pissed off about it, right? Because it doesn't make sense. Dusty, I like the dual bases. Yeah, I'm not against it. My thing is just like why do you Dusty, tell me this. Was there like a large spike of people getting hurt in first base collisions? I mean, again, what we're doing to me, I don't see this stopping collisions at all. Because now, if you're a first baseman that used to have really good footwork, like a la one of our former teammates, Jake Davies, who would dance around the backside of the base on a throw that's a little bit wide or whatever. Now your first baseman doesn't have that opportunity, and he might step into the lane where the base runner is going. So I don't think you're going to see really any decrease in injuries. If anything, I think just this added thing, at least for the first couple of years, is going to make it could be equal or maybe even more because now first basemen are going to sprain their ankle trying to dodge around uh, the safety or the safety bag, I mean, the extra base, whatever you want to call it. To me, and again, it's like whatever you think about the safety bag, I don't really have an opinion on it. I think it's stupid. I don't care that it's in the game. I think it's just one of these added things where we're changing the nature of the game itself. And you can't take out guys at second anymore. And that used to be part of the game. It's like basically going into football and saying, all right, you can't you can't tackle below the knee or something. I mean, it's like it's saying something like it's akin to that. It's like something that was a part of the game for 100 years, taking out the guy at second base to break up a double play. We were all taught that growing up, and now like I'm seeing in high school games, kids barely even get touched by a base runner, and they get mad and they're arguing with the umpire. Um, Jonathan, congratulations on the win last night. I checked in on the game changer. Yeah, played great. Boys really swung the bat well. We actually swung the bat really well the first 3 or 4 innings, just hitting balls right at guys. And then we had a big 5th inning, I think, where he put up 7 runs and pitching did a great job. But thanks, Jonathan, for following it. Just wait until the first base catches up the line and is across the safety bag. Is the runner still up? That's what I'm saying, man. That's what I'm saying is like, if anything, I think there's going to be more confusing things going on, like this call in the Florida Stetson game. It's for the pitcher covering the bag. I get that part. That is the one. That's the one point, Dusty, I think I understand because that is where like guys step on each other and whatever. But to me, you're going to see first basemen like spraining their ankle because again, they're just not used to doing it, and it's limiting the mobility of those really athletic first basemen to kind of play around the backside of the base depending on the throw. It also takes away the collision on the throw up the line, in addition to the pitcher covering on a 3-1. Yeah, I mean, I get it. It makes it a clearer throw. Like one positive I do see is like that, like a bunt to the catcher where the dumbest, you'd see all these interference calls and stuff because the guy's basically in the baseline, but the catcher hits him in the back. So it's going to take that out of it, I guess. So there's going to, again, like anything, there are no solutions, guys. There are only trade-offs. And the trade-offs are, what we saw in the game with Stetson, where the kid clearly stepped on the safety bag, but somehow got called out for not stepping on the safety bag, or maybe because he partly stepped on the real bag. Again, it's like I think we're getting a little bit too, we're getting a little too nitpicky on these rules. We're like, he stepped on the real base, with some of his foot, so it doesn't count. Like, what's the ruling there? I would love to hear kind of the exact reason why he was ruled out. Was it because he stepped on the real base? No need. What's next? Put the ball on a tee. Yeah, yeah. Put the ball on the tee, and the pitching's. Yeah, in the big leagues they may go there next. The pitching's so much better now that like we're gonna have to put the ball on the tee. Jared M. Sadly, I think this would actually lead to less offense in college baseball. Yeah, for real. It might. Yeah, you certainly wouldn't see a lot of home runs. That's for sure. Put the ball on the tee. It would be interesting to see if you put the ball on the tee. Do batting averages go up? What the slugging percentages do? But guys, looking at some of the scores yesterday in the midweek games, obviously Georgia Tech has a game tonight or today at 4. But let's take a look at some of these scores. Dusty might help some of these pitchers get out of all these 2-0 counts. Yeah, that's right. They wouldn't be walking, guys. That's for sure. How many strikeouts would there be? Would be the real question. All right, so Wake Forest takes care of business. Clemson takes care of business. Arkansas, North Carolina, UC Santa Barbara, Tennessee in a close battle with North Alabama. Did not see that coming, but they take care of business still. Ole Miss beats Southern Miss pretty handedly. I'm not going to get into the Ole Miss social media firestorm that came out last night. I'm guessing some of you guys saw it. Crazy stuff was happening last night in Ole Miss social media, the Ole Miss social media sphere. Campbell beats Duke. Duke is not playing well right now. Campbell beats Duke. Canes, who's not here right now, unfortunately, but Canes was, he's been saying he thinks Duke's overrated. Right now, Duke not playing well. Again, it's early. They could come out and win 8 games in a row here in the next 8, but they're not playing well. Troy with a big win over Mississippi State. 1-run game for, I think, 4 innings. I think Mississippi State hit a grand slam to make it a 1-run game in the 5th, and then lights out pitching from Troy. So Troy and the Fighting Skylar Meads are balling out right now. Virginia narrowly beats VMI, but they're playing decently, even though they had a rough weekend. You see how far they fell in the rankings from number 2 to number 10. Oklahoma beats Texas Southern. Vanderbilt beats Tennessee Tech. Florida Stetson game. Obviously, it ended up being, went from a 2-1 game. It was 2-1 game, and then the whole controversy of that call would have been a tie game, I think, in the 8th, and then Florida was able to add on. So who knows? But again, that game's under protest. So if they restart it, brand new ball game, nothing basically in the 8th. TCU narrowly takes out Tarleton. And big here, Texas State with the upset over A&M, 7-3. A&M, guys, and I was looking through their kind of their statistics so far, trying to figure out what's going on. We'll look at them now. Let me pull that up for you guys. To me, let me pull the PDF up. Actually, never mind. We're not actually. Yeah, we can look at that. Okay. No, we're not going to do that. We're just going to go to the regular view. Okay. So to me, guys, A&M is not scoring enough runs. So if you look at their offensive production right now, obviously one of the guy who's considered a potential 1-1 pick, Jace Lavalette, is off to a 217 start. He does have 3 home runs. He does have 9 walks, but he's got 10 strikeouts in just 32 at-bats, or 32 plate appearances, I should say. So, I mean, he's striking out at roughly a 33% clip. That is rough in the college game. And they have played some decent competition. But, again, when you're the preseason number 1 team, I mean, you have to be winning these midweek matchups, no matter who's it against. Obviously, they lost Gavin Grahovac for the season, I believe, with the shoulder injury. That's a huge loss because obviously he had a massive year last year. So they're going to have to pick up. I mean, that's a bad. I believe he hit 23 home runs last year. So that's a huge hole in your lineup you're having to fill now. And again, I mean, you look at the runs scored here: 47 runs scored in 7 games. So they're scoring roughly a little over 6 runs a game. So and this was supposed to be one of, if not the best offenses in the country. So you're scoring a little over 6 runs a game. Like, that's not going to get it done. You're hitting 258 as a team. 52 strikeouts. Here's a big one, right? 52 strikeouts in roughly, let's call it 250 at bats. So I mean, as a team, they're striking out over a 20% clip. That's tough, right? You better be hitting a lot of extra base hits. And right now, they have 21 extra base hits in 7 games. So they're less than 2 home runs a game, less than 2 doubles a game, and they're striking out at 22, 23% of the time as a team. That's the reason you're struggling to score runs. You can't strike out at that high of a rate and not be hitting the ball out of the park and hitting a lot of extra base hits. So obviously struggles there for A&M. Pitching wise, looking at their numbers, I mean, they're pitching to a 3.3, right? Looking at 60 innings pitched, I believe 30 walks to 61 strikeouts. So they're getting it done, not really missing a lot of bats either. So again, Nick, you look at the ERA, it's fine, but you are giving up a decent amount of hits. You're giving up a lot of contact. You're not striking out as many guys as you would think. And then defensively, we'll take a look here. 11 errors in 7 games. So they're averaging about 1.5 errors a game. So you combine all that, that's the reason for the struggles so far. Or not really struggles, right? They're like 5-2. But again, if you look at their schedule, they should be 7-0. Let's catch up on the chat here. We were all tuned into that first game you were calling. Yeah, Dusty, everyone was watching the Friday against Marshall. We're all watching it on stream. They need you all 4 games. Didn't A&M have a major back get hurt? Yeah, Gavin Grahovac. He got hurt. I believe this was his first game he missed was yesterday. Kyle, how did you guys do yesterday? And did anyone on the other team impress you? They have a 2027 kid who LSU and Miami are both following, but that doesn't mean much when you're following 300 kids. Sure. They have, we ended up winning 8-3. We played really, really well all around. We pitched, we hit, we played good defense. So overall it was a great win. I think we just made it into the top 10 in our classification after that game. So we got a game tonight again against South Forsyth at 6. So if you guys want to follow that on Game Changer, be my guest. So we got a game tonight, and then we got a game Friday, and then we're getting close to getting into region play. One of our starters is our regular second baseman who will play short when our number 1 guy pitches. He's got a little bit of a tight hamstring, so he hadn't played in 3 games, but he pitched for us last night and did really well. So he's close to returning. 3-3, Dusty, 3-3. We're at 500 now, baby. Take it easy. And the really 2 of the 3 losses were against the team we beat last night, who's a really good team, and then another really good team who are way bigger schools. And again, like we were not playing well the first 3 games. We'll leave it at that. I have you winning the state title this year. Thanks, Canes. Appreciate it. Kyle, when I go to a JUCO game, what should I be looking at to see if the hitter or pitcher can make an impact at the Power 4 level? Again, Zach, it's are they hitting the ball in the barrel consistently? You could go 0-for-4, but if you're hitting the ball in the barrel consistently, you're going to hit. Are they controlling the strike zone as a pitcher or a hitter? Right? Are they as a pitcher? Are they getting ahead of hitters? Do they have high enough velocity? Does it look like they have a weapon of a breaking ball? Right? Do they have a wipeout slider they're getting a lot of swing and misses on? They have a really good disappearing changeup that guys are swinging through. So for a pitcher, you're looking, do they have a good enough fastball? Do they have a weapon off speed wise? And do they throw enough strikes? Are they getting ahead of hitters? Offensively, you're just looking for a guy again who's controlling the strike zone. He's swinging at good pitches and he's finding the barrel pretty consistently. That's a good indicator that guy is going to hit over the course of a however many game season. I tell high school guys all the time, you can have a coach come watch you play and go 0-for-3 and really impress them, because baseball is baseball, right? You can hit 3 lasers right at guys and be 0-for-3, but a coach is looking at that like, man, this guy can hit. He's not going, oh, he went 0-for-3, he sucks. And that's where parents get confused a lot. Their son will go 3-for-3 in front of a coach, and it's like 2 duck farts that fall in because high school defenders aren't good. and like a weak ground ball in the hole that like a college shortstop is gonna make every time, right? So a coach sees that. He doesn't see 3 for 3. He sees, man, that's 3 outs. So that's what you're looking at. With you and Mark Pope coaching, might not be a better staff in Georgia. Hey, Canes, you said it, not me, but I appreciate the compliment, man. If only Dusty Isaacs would have taken up the offer to coach as well, we definitely would be pushing for that staff, maybe the best staff. Good luck tonight. I'll be following on Game Changer. Wish y'all had a live stream. Yeah, I know. Maybe I'll talk to the administration. We certainly, the school, I'll say it like this, certainly should be able to afford one. So maybe it's something they can get going. Kyle, how do you think the new age high school baseball antics impact a player's perception and recruiting? I mean, I can tell you, one of the worst displays I've seen was in the team we beat last night in the previous game when we lost. They have a very highly ranked player in the 26 class. And he hit a home run after they had taken a 2 or 3 run lead and proceeded to MF our players, our coaching staff, and our fans as he ran around, jumping around the bases. And he was decommitted from LSU for a heinous thing he did. And so my thing is that, yeah, I think the question, Dusty, like if is this taken into account? If 2 players are even, are they taking the less of a headache? 100%. 100%. Why? I mean, if the 2 players are even, so they're the same roughly, one guy's acts like a clown and one guy's acts like a pro, you're taking the guy that acts like a pro because he's not going to cause issues in the clubhouse. He's going to take care of business on the field. He's not going to do things that pump up your opposing team in games. Like I talked about in one of my videos where, as a pitcher, if you're a starting pitcher, Dusty, we've talked about this where, your job's to go 6 or 7 innings and go deep and dominate the game. And a starting pitcher on Friday night, goes 1, 2, 3 with like a strikeout and he's like jumping up and down off the field coming off. It's like, dude, you got 5 or 6 innings at least left before the mission's complete. And the opposing team now is looking at you like, let's get this guy. Let's knock this guy out, make him look like an idiot in the 3rd inning, which happens a lot. So 100% coaches are seeing that. And they're like, again, right, if you're super talented, like they're going to still recruit you. But they're definitely going to try to, like, without better words to say it, like just like knock that out of you. Our commit went 0 for 1 with a strikeout and a walk against the UCF commit last night. The K was not competitive at all. Again, Kane's, like every hitter is going to have at bats where you look really bad. I'll give you an example. When I started a game in big league camp, it was my first time ever starting in a big league spring training game. My first at bat was terrible. Like swinging at pitches out of the zone, ended up striking out on a bad pitch out of the zone. And instead of just dwelling on it and being like, man, I suck or whatever, I was just like, yeah, man, that was a terrible at bat. I think even went into the dugout and told Craig Counsell, I'm like, wow, that was a terrible at bat. Just kind of laughing. And then my next at bat, I came up and hit a 3-run home run, right? I didn't take it into the next at bat. So guys are going to look bad. Even the best hitters in the world look bad sometimes. But so that's why baseball, you have to watch a guy for multiple games. You can't just watch one game and make a decision. Once the UCF commit got taken out, our commit hit a 3-run bomb the next at bat. So that's good, right? He didn't let that strikeout go into his next at bat. Coach K, what about GPA in consideration? Coach, generally with GPA, the good thing about having a good GPA and having good grades and good test scores is that a school can get you more academic money. So you're more attractive in that way because, hey, we don't have to offer him this big athletic scholarship. He's going to get a lot of academic money. But if you're not talented enough, they're not going to say, okay, I think Michigan's head coach, Coach Tracy, he made a video about this. It was great. He's like, listen, we want guys to get good grades, but like if we have a bunch of guys with good grades that can't play, we're not going to be here very long because our job's to win. So again, a GPA is that addition on top of your talent that can make you more attractive. But the number one requirement is that you're talented enough to play. You high school coaches need to do a better job of policing these things and teach the game. It's truly sickening. Trust me, man. I mean, I tell our guys all the time, like, enough. If they start trying to like talk trash to the pitcher or saying things, I've already said that probably 6 or 7 times. So that they're starting to realize like, hey, let's cheer for our guys. Let's not be all over the other team. Um, is that okay every once in a while? Sure, but let's not be ridiculous with it. And I'll give it to you like this: the kid that hit the home run in the first game, he came in and pitched the last couple innings, and one of our big bats hit a bomb off him. And I guess when he hit the kid hit the home run last week, he said something like, go F and get that thing, like go pick it up, go F and pick it up or something to one of our guys. And they were talking in the dugout, man, if one of us hits home run, we got to tell them that. I'm like, no, we're not doing that. Like, we're not going to stoop down to that level. Like, just play the game, talk with your bat, talk with your glove, talk with your pitches. But you're right, Dusty, because when that happened, I literally expected their head coach when he walked over to say something like, hey guys, I apologize for that. That's ridiculous. It's never going to happen again. And from what I could tell, nothing was said to the kid. I don't think he had any kind of punishment. I can tell you, if we ever had a guy like that, that kid would be getting lit up. And my high school coach, if I ever did something like that, would have thrown me up against a wall. Canes, our other commit went 1 for 3 against the UNC commit. 1 strikeout, 2 RBI double in the 7th inning, which was the last batter he faced. What do we make of that? That's a good game, man. That's a solid game, right? You're against a UNC commit. That's a great game. The question is that a UNC commit that's actually going to play for UNC, or is he not? That's something that parents get wrong, is they think, well, this kid's committed to UNC. My son can play at UNC or play against UNC in the ACC. And the reality is there's a lot of guys that are committed to schools that end up like not playing at all or transferring out because they're not good enough. So it just depends. Craig, when is your regular high school season over? I'll tell you right now. So our final game of the regular season is April 17th. And then that next week playoffs would start. So, theoretically, if you made it all the way to like the state championship, it'd be ending in like the beginning to middle of May. But the regular season, our last game is April 17th. The kid is a dude for sure. Yeah, I think that's a solid game, right? It's a solid showing. So let's go back to again, Canes. What do we talked about? Zach, all you guys that have been here. The one team in the ACC that I thought, man, this reading D1 baseball's preseason kind of write up of the team and scouting report was North Carolina State. The strength was supposed to be the bullpen and the starting pitching. The offense was very unproven. And even the starting pitching, looking at it, I said, man, you're really expecting guys to make massive jumps from their previous year. And what happens to NC State again last night? They lose 5-1 to Richmond. 5-1. NC State is in big trouble. And the reason for that is, they're hitting, and we'll bring up the stats here. So we'll do a little dive into the stats, right? And the stats can't tell you everything, but they can tell you a lot. So we'll look at this. We'll zoom out one more. There we go. So we can see everything. Okay. So can you guys see that pretty well? I think you guys can probably see it well. So look, you got 2 hitters hitting, basically have 1 hitter hitting solidly over 300. In this offensive climate, that's tough. That's not good. They're hitting 254 as a team. Their opponents are actually hitting better than them. And remember, you're in the ACC early on in the year, you're facing you're not facing just ACC level competition. So for your opponents to be hitting higher than you to start the year is really tough. They're 3-5. They've lost 5 straight games. And let's look here. They've got 8 home runs as a team through 8 games. That's really, really low. I think you want to be at least in that 1.5 to 2 range if you're a solid offense in this climate. So NC State not hitting a lot of home runs. They have 40 walks One thing they are doing well is they've only got 53 strikeouts and about 300 plate appearances. So you're, about 1/6 of the time they're striking out. So you're, somewhere in that like 16 to 17% strikeout rate, which is fine. But again, they're not hitting for a lot of power. They're not stealing a lot of bases. They have 5 stolen bases in 8 games. So again, guys, like if you're not going to hit for a lot of power, you have to find ways as an offense to manufacture runs. And what that means is, you got to be swiping bags. You got to be, runners on second and third, or first and second, no outs. Like you maybe need to bunt those guys over so that a base hit at least scores 1 or a ball in play at least scores 1. And right now, NC State in 8 games has 57 runs scored. 57 runs scored. So again, they're scoring about 7 runs a game against not great competition. That it's not. They're definitely off to a bad start. As a team, pitching wise, they're pitching to a 4.7 ERA. In 65 innings, they're giving up 64 hits. They have 36 walks. So they're walking more than 1 every 2 innings as a staff, and just 67 strikeouts. So they're not striking out a whole lot of guys. They're walking a decent amount of guys. I believe they have 10 hit batters as well. So you add that into the 36 walks. I mean, that's 46 free passes in 65 innings on top of 64 hits given up. So, the pit all around right now for NC State, they're not playing well. Defensively, 12 errors in 8 games. So they're making 1.5 errors a game. Again, very similar to A&M, not hitting well. Pitching's not doing. Again, the strength of NC State preseason, what everyone thought was they were supposed to have the best bullpen in the ACC. And right now, some of their guys that have been really depended on. Look at the guys that have the worst ERAs have the most innings pitched, right? Consiglio, 4 2/3, 7. Duden, 2 1/3, 11.5 with 6 walks to 1 strikeout and 1 hit batter. Camden Wimbish, 2 innings pitched, 13.5. Matt Willardson, 3 1/3, 16.2. So some of their bullpen is really struggling right now, walking a lot of guys. And that's just, again, a recipe for disaster. You're not going to win a lot of games when you're walking more guys than the opposing team, you're making errors, and your offense is not scoring runs. It's just like impossible to win. So NC State is in, again, trouble early. One thing I will say about NC State, and this is something to consider, they are typically very slow starters in the ACC. They, like NC State, almost every year is like 4 and 8 to start ACC play. And then they go the second half, they just ball out. And they go like 12 and 3 in the second half. So NC State definitely has time to recover and recoup, but just this isn't the start you would want to see. And again, they're preseason number 12 or 13, and they're definitely not playing like it. Definitely not playing like it. Where I live, it starts in the middle of May. It's considered a summer sport, so 8th grade kids can play high school baseball before their freshman year. Man, that's crazy, Craig. That's crazy. That's when this high school season starts, is in May. It's crazy how like the cold weather states, like how those kids, again, there's a reason a lot of those kids in cold weather states need help in the summer with recruiting. It's because their high school season starts so late. They miss a lot of the early tournaments in summer ball. Have you seen the Gino from Denmark school? That dude looks legit. I have not seen him. I don't think we play them this year. We do not play them this year, but I'll take a look. So the team we are playing tonight is, let's see what their record is 5-2. They won all 4 of their first 4 games. They lost to Walton 5-4. And then they've gone 2-1 the last 3 games. So they've played 7 games. We did have a game that got moved back due to weather. But it should be a good game. I mean, a lot of our early schedule is playing bigger schools that are good to prepare for region play. Let me see when we start our region play. We start region on March 4th. So basically, next week we will be starting regional play. Wish y'all came to Panama City for a beach for a spring break tournament. Yeah, that'd be sick. That would be sick if we did that. But let's look at the games we got coming up today. Obviously, I mean, there was some big, like a lot of talk on social media last night about how I think someone was like, is the Sun Belt the best mid-major conference in baseball? And I'm like, duh. Like, yeah, they are. You got Texas State upsetting A&M. You got Troy beating Mississippi State. The Sun Belt just overall. I mean, again, you look at ODU, who's projected to finish, I think, 7th or 8th in the Sun Belt, and you looked at their weekend arms, and you're like, man, this team's going to be good in the Sun Belt. So Sun Belt is stacked, and it definitely is the best mid-major conference in college baseball. Let's see here. All right, so games tonight. Let's bring it up. Talk about which ones will be good to watch. Georgia versus Georgia State. That'll be a good game. Georgia State's always good. I think this year they're expected to be a little bit worse than normal, but they always have a good club. Duke against Liberty. Duke getting beat again last night. Like big, this could be a big bounce back game for Duke, but the Liberty squad is playing really well. North Carolina against North Carolina A&T. That should be an easy game for North Carolina. Oklahoma over Texas Southern. Florida State against Jacksonville. It should be a decent game. Florida versus North Florida. UAB Troy, big rivalry. The big in-state Alabama rivalry of the mid-majors. LSU Dallas Baptist. This is going to be a great game. Cap. Kyle, when are you going to put some black-rimmed glasses on and do a Ricky Vaughn pitching-only segment? Are you saying I look like Rick Vaughn? Is that what you're saying, Cap? Maybe that'll be a fun stream. I'll do that one time. Wild Thing. You make my heart sing. Well, my team's tryouts for high school are Monday, March 3rd. Miami versus Florida Gulf Coast night. That'll be a great game. Kane's going to be sweating that one. Let's look at the ACC lineup. Virginia Tech, James Madison should be solid. Louisville, Butler. West Georgia. This is their first year in Division I. And playing against Georgia Tech tonight, or I guess this afternoon at 4 p.m. Thank you, Cap. I take that as a compliment. Actually, funny story is Charlie Sheen, obviously who plays Rick Vaughn. He actually came out to I think it was maybe Dusty and I's junior year in college. It was one of those years. And he worked out. He practiced with us. He took BP. He was out running down fly balls in the outfield. So we actually got to meet him. And that was while the whole craziness with him was going on. It was that same year when he was going through a mental break that people were saying or whatever. So that was him. He was out there with us practicing at Georgia Tech. Miami, Florida Gulf Coast right here. California State Bakersfield. This should be a fairly easy game for Cal. But let's go down to the SEC. Wow, crazy story. Yeah, I mean, we got to meet him, and he was a nice guy. But I mean, he definitely looked like he was on drugs. Again, maybe he wasn't, but he looked like it. But he was he was funny guy to be around for sure. I think that's no one would be surprised by that. But in the SEC, Kyle, go to Warren Nolan Baseball. That's who I use for scores, RPI, and score predictions. Oh yeah, Canes told me, or maybe it was you or Canes told me about it. I do actually like their. I do like their the website. I like their I guess what they call like the ELO system. So if we go on the ACC, let's go to. Yeah, they got a good website. We'll look at that in a second. So Georgia State, we talked about. Georgia should be fine there, but again, Georgia State always plays well in the midweeks in state. Morehead State versus Kentucky, Oklahoma versus Texas Southern, Florida versus North Florida, Dallas Baptist LSU. So not a lot of games. Obviously, it's a Wednesday. Most of the weeks you're only playing a midweek on Tuesday, but like Georgia Tech, for example, played a 4-game series against Marshall, so they played on Monday. So Tuesday was their off day. Yesterday was their off day, and now they're playing West Georgia today. This game is going to be really fun to watch. LSU at Dallas Baptist, or LSU against Dallas Baptist at Globe Life Field, home of the Texas Rangers. That'll be really cool to watch. USC Upstate Western Carolina. That'll be a good game. Hey, don't knock Cali ball. Laugh out loud. Bakersfield has its decent years. Yeah, they do. I just think again, like it's your Power 4 schools are generally always going to be favored in the midweek because they're just going to be deeper, right? They're going to be. It doesn't mean they're going to win. It's baseball, but they're always going to be favored. I don't think that's going to be like a blowout from Cal. I just think Cal has the edge. But again, anything could happen. All right, let's look at. Let me see what the. Let's look at the conference Warren Nolan conference standings. Miami right now. Let's take a look. Can we get these ads, please? This is the only thing I don't like about Warren Nolan. Get these ads off of me. I don't want to get hacked. My God. Oh my gosh. All right. Man, these ads are. Can we just. Man. I feel like a boomer. There we go. Okay. North Carolina, Stanford, and Florida State, the only 3 left unbeatens in the ACC. Interesting to look at. Obviously, RPI right now. They had RPI on here. Where is it? Oh, RPI rank. Okay, here we go. So for Miami, like again, you're reading into this. So like Miami at 7-1, great start, but their RPI is at 184. So you're not playing anybody. You haven't played anybody, so you can't read into that as much. So, whereas North Carolina at 8-0, RPI rank at 27, you're like, okay. Notre Dame is 5-1 to the RPI of 12. Virginia Tech is 5-2. Their RPI is 10. So those are all good signs. Like Georgia Tech at 6-2, RPI is 133. Again, their RPIs are all going to be pretty, for the most part, going to be pretty bad just because it's early in the year. You're not playing your ACC schedule. Coach K, do you coach a travel ball team? No, I don't. I do recruiting advising with Elite Sports Advising, but I don't coach a travel ball team. I don't know if I could handle it, to be honest. So here are the teams. Like again, look at Duke, 4-4, 260 RPI. I mean, again, really playing. Duke was considered a top 10 team preseason, and they haven't played like really bad competition, but they just have not played well. NC State exactly the same, just not playing well at all. Have lost 5 straight games. Virginia's at 4-3, but the caveat for Virginia is they have played good competition, and they have been without their Friday starter Evan Blanco, who is considered one of the best starting pitchers in college baseball. I believe he was number 3 or 4 preseason, according to D1 Baseball. So, they are playing with a pretty big hole in their pitching rotation that hopefully, and like I told you guys before the season started, I think in all likelihood they ease him back maybe the weekend before ACC play starts. So you may have him, let's say 2 weekends for ACC play. You have him pitch on Friday, make him throw 2 or 3 innings, and then the next weekend you go 3 or 4 innings, and then ACC play he's good to go. Pittsburgh is 5-2, RPI 55, so solid. Virginia Tech we talked about. Notre Dame at 12 is crazy. Clemson 7-1 with a 26 RPI. Like, they've obviously played really good competition and done really well. Like Wake Forest, for example, is 8-1, and their RPI is 204. So they just haven't played anybody. And then Florida State, really the most impressive. They're 7-0 with an RPI of 6. So Florida State, if you're taking any team right now, you're taking Florida State or UNC. Those are the 2 top dogs right now in the ACC. Let's look at the SEC. I'm blind. All right, so Alabama 9-0 to start. The Fighting Rob Vaughns 9-0. A lot of undefeateds in the SEC still. You got RPI of 9 for Alabama, so you're high on Alabama right now if you're an Alabama fan. The Gamecocks are 9-0 with a ranked 15 in RPI. Tennessee 8-0, RPI of 4. So I mean, these 3 teams here are facing good competition, and like South Carolina are 3-0 against Q1. So South Carolina is legit so far. Florida 8-0, but again, RPI is 46, not bad. Oklahoma 7-0, RPI 57. Vanderbilt's 8-1 with an RPI of 13. Really good. Look at all these SEC schools. Like, one thing you got to give the SEC credit is a lot of these schools play pretty tough pre-conference schedule. So they're not only getting into the tournament a lot. The SEC doesn't just get a lot of teams in because the SEC is a gauntlet. But for some reason, a lot of the SEC teams, and the ACC is starting to do this, but a lot of the SEC teams like go right into like one of these tournaments or a couple tournaments early in the year, and so their RPI gets boosted from that pretty big. Auburn at 8-1, RPI of 14. Really good start to the year for Auburn after last year, how that went. But again, you have to wait to see what happens in conference play. Georgia at 8-1, RPI of 61. Ole Miss at 7-1, Arkansas 7-1, LSU 7-1, RPI of 174. LSU's got the worst RPI in the whole SEC. I mean, they've played nobody. They have played nobody. Texas at 6-1, Kentucky at 5-1, Mississippi State at 6-2, Texas A&M, the preseason number 1 team, is 5-2 and 169th in RPI. Again, it's early, but that is concerning. Again, if you're the preseason number 1 team, guys, like, you're expected to dominate the preseason. You're expected to dominate the preseason. So if you're already kind of looking a little sketch before you get to conference play, red flags are going to start popping up. That doesn't mean that A&M can't get it figured out and just dominate the SEC play. But again, if you're not dominating non-SEC series and games, it makes it questionable if you're going to be able to dominate games in the SEC. That's for sure. And then Missouri just at the bottom, 149 in RPI and 4-4 to start, which is not surprising. I mean, Missouri, you have to give them credit. I mean, let's just look at these teams, right? Kentucky, for example, like Coach, Mingione uh, has done a phenomenal job at Kentucky, uh, and led them to the College World Series and had really good years there. But pretty much all these schools are like all in the deep South or the Southeast, except for Kentucky and Missouri. And Kentucky has kind of figured out a way to do it. Missouri is still trying to find that strategy. And again, facilities wise in the SEC, they're not where most of the teams in the SEC are. And it's been tough for them to put up winning seasons in the SEC in baseball. And Missouri, really, if you go look through their stats, I mean, they're really struggling as a pitching staff. 7-1-5 as a staff this early in the season. They've given up, guys, listen to this. 68 innings pitched for Missouri's pitching staff. And I'll bring this up so you guys can see it. Because you have to figure out if you're a coach, and again, you're seeing this live, right? So but if we're looking from the outside in and we're looking at the numbers, just the numbers, right? Because the numbers, again, I'm not against analytics. The numbers can tell you a lot of things about your team, but they don't really tell you how to fix it. You just know what you have to fix. It doesn't tell you how to fix it. Their pitching staff right now is throwing it to a 7-1-5 and 68 innings pitched. They've given up 90 hits. 90 hits. They're almost giving up like 1.5 hits per innings pitched. Now, one thing they're doing well is they've only walked 27. They've only walked 27 guys in 68 innings, and they've got 74 strikeouts as a team. So in some regards, they're doing well. But, I mean, you cannot survive if you're giving up that many hits per inning. You just can't. I mean, it's impossible to have good numbers as a staff if you're giving up 90 hits in 68 innings pitched. They're actually not hitting the ball too bad. In 8 games, they've got 10 home runs, which is a little bit low, 13 doubles, 2 triples. They also are their walks to strikeout ratio is really bad. 36 walks in, let's call it 310 innings pitched, 310 plate appearances. So they're walking at like a little bit more than a 10% clip as a team. But in college baseball, again, walks are way up. They're striking out and they're striking out at over a 25% rate. Like, this is unsustainable. As a team, if you're striking out at over 25% of the time, again, like you better be hitting home runs. You better be driving the ball in the gaps, because if you're hitting singles, you're not scoring runs. People are just striking out way too much. Right now, as a team in 8 games, they already have 2 guys in double-digit strikeouts, which again, you can't win. I mean, you can't produce runs that way. If you're not going to hit the ball to the ballpark and drive the gaps, in 8 games, they don't have one guy with more than 2 doubles. Everyone has 1 double and 1 home run. Now, this Brady Piccarelli has 2 doubles and 3 home runs and 7 hits. Now, he's going to be getting some playing time now. But again, as an offensive total, that's really bad. It's really bad. Seems like Missouri has always been bad in the SEC. What will it take for them to take the next step and start getting better? I mean, honestly, like, you got to think about it, man. Like, usually if Missouri is recruiting you, some ACC schools are recruiting you, and probably some other SEC schools. So again, it comes down to Missouri. A lot of these kids, if they went to Missouri, they probably get a good chance to play. But kids don't make decisions based on that. They make a decision based on the facilities are sick and And again, and rightfully so, this team doesn't, they don't pick Missouri because they haven't been winning in the SEC. You're not going to play in the NCAA tournament. You're not going to, you're going to maybe not even make the SEC tournament. So it's because of that. You got to win. You got to find out a way to win, and maybe that's a change in offensive strategy. Maybe that's a change in pitching strategy. The guys you recruit, how you build your lineup, how you build your pitching staff. So to answer your question, Zach, it's just like there's not one indicator that will do it. You have to take a look at where you're struggling. And again, if you're striking out at like a 26 or a 27% rate as a team, listen, if you're striking out at that higher rate in college, period, that's not good. But if you're striking out at that rate as a team, that's really bad. So maybe it's a change in mindset of your hitters. I don't know exactly what it is, but they have to change something up. They cannot try to compete the same way an A&M competes, or an LSU, or a Texas, or a lot of the other schools, right? Because they're all getting similar talent. And so again, they have to figure out what is going to be the best for them to win games, right? Coastal Carolina was famous for this, right? It's like, we're going to try to score 7 runs a game. So if we have runner on third with 1 out in the first inning, we're going to safety squeeze them in to get close to that number 7, back before kind of the balls were juiced and everything. But it's hard to look from the outside looking in. Again, Zach, like, you can look at the numbers and they can tell you what's going wrong, but it's not really telling you how to fix it. And ultimately, that's something their staff has to try to identify and figure out. There's no secret that Missouri doesn't get the same support from their athletic department as an LSU or a Florida State or an A&M, et cetera, right? So they're playing from behind in that regard. Facilities are not nearly as good as a lot of these SEC schools. So when you have less facilities, you're not supported as much. You're not going to get the same caliber of recruits, and ultimately you have to change how you try to win games. You cannot you can't go up there hoping for the 3-run home run if that's not what your offense is capable of. And if you're not going to hit 3-run home run, you definitely cannot strike out at the rate they're striking out as a team right now. So that's something they got to figure out. They got to figure that out. And for example, like let's look at Georgia Tech's offense, for example, and just kind of see, all right, what's going right, what's going wrong. They're hitting 284 as a team, which is solid. You'd like to see that number a little bit higher. It's early, right? So it should probably come up a little bit more. But they've got, in 8 games, 25 doubles and 10 home runs. So they've got 35 extra base hits in 8 games. So run the numbers. They're hitting at minimum 4.3 extra base hits a game, right? So they are driving the ball. They're getting extra base hits. You get a lot of extra base hits, you're going to score runs. They have 40 walks and roughly 300 plate appearances. So they're basically walking at a 13 to 14% rate, which is really good as a team. They only have 58 strikeouts in 300 plate appearances. So they're striking out at like let's call it 16%, 17% rate. Missouri striking out at a 27% rate. Georgia Tech striking out at a 17% rate. Way better. Next, Georgia Tech stealing bases. They're 15 of 17 on the base paths. Their opponents have only attempted 9. Right? So Georgia Tech's driving the ball, but they're also taking advantage of, stealing bases when they can. Georgia Tech's only made 5 errors in 8 games. So they're making almost half an error a game. So they're playing solid defense. The pitching staff, the numbers did get a little bit bumped up after the loss at the end of the game against Marshall. But again, you look at the overall numbers, 59 hits in 70 innings. That's great. 30 walks in 70 innings. That's great. You're walking less than 1 per 2 innings. And then 88 strikeouts in 70 innings. So you're striking out way more than 1 per inning. So you add all that up, and again, Georgia Tech is doing a great job. Now they are giving up what I would say, and that was obviously spiked by the past weekend, but 18 extra base hits in 70 innings. So basically per inning, they're giving up about 3 or 4 extra base hits a game, which is fine. Their opponent's batting average is 230. right? So what does that tell you? Like, guys aren't hitting well against them. They're striking out guys. So even though Georgia Tech, like that weekend split against Marshall was pretty rough, like that's, you don't expect that to happen. Coaching staff definitely not happy about that. You go through the numbers and you're like, you know what? This team is actually playing better than what they've done record-wise as a whole. That doesn't mean they don't have room to improve, but it just tells you they're in a way better spot than a lot of these teams that are struggling right now. NC State, Duke. Like let's do a Duke deep dive as well, right? Because Duke preseason was like, one of the top 3 teams in the SEC or ACC, and now they're 4-4 and they're not playing well. Let's zoom it in for you guys, and I'll share this. A&M not looking so great yet. Yeah, and again, it's early, right? Like I told you guys, you don't really know about your offense until like 3 or 4 weeks in. So A&M's offense is supposed to be tops in the country. They got time to kind of right the ship. Zach, but with the transfer portal, you think that would benefit a school like Mizzou? But here's the issue though, Zach. Missouri's best players are probably hitting the transfer portal and upgrading to Texas or LSU or Georgia or whatever. So you're losing like people. The SEC, Missouri is not like the destination school in the SEC. So if you go to Mizzou and you do really well, you're probably transferring out. And the SEC players or ACC players that Mizzou is getting are the guys who didn't play at the other Power 4 schools, right? So they're not getting the talent that you would expect them to get being in the SEC because Missouri is not considered a destination. Now, don't get me wrong. If a really good mid-major program, if the only offer he's got in the SEC is Missouri, he's probably going. But he's probably got offers to other SEC schools or ACC schools. So he's going to pick one of those other schools, right? Because Missouri, here's what you know, generally speaking, about Missouri if you're a player. You're not going to play in the NCAA tournament. You may not, you're probably not going to play in the SEC tournament unless you really surprise people. So like you're going there and you're not even going to get a chance to fight for a College World Series, right? So it's very hard to recruit if your school is in that situation. It's very hard to recruit if you're in a top tier conference, but you're the worst team in the conference almost every year. It just makes it impossible, even for portal guys. All right, so let's look at the numbers for Duke. 286 as a team. 11 doubles, 3 triples, 15 home runs. So they're 29 extra base hits in 8 games. So they're getting about 3.5, around 3.5 extra base hits a game. So again, a little bit lower than Georgia Tech as far as extra base hits per game. Georgia Tech was at 35, but they're still driving the ball well. Here's a good one for Duke offensively. 68 walks in, let's call it 340 plate appearances. So they're quite literally walking at a 20% rate as a team. This is phenomenal. This is a phenomenal number. And they're striking out at about a 20% rate, which is great if your walk rate is high, right? So both of these, this number is okay, but it's made even better when you're walking at this higher rate. And you add in the hit by pitches, they get more free passes than strikeouts. So that's phenomenal for Duke. Phenomenal. If you're looking at these offensive numbers, purely just looking at these offensive numbers, you're like, okay, they're undefeated. So why are they 4-4? Let's look at the pitching. 5.23 ERA. 74 innings pitched, 78 hits given up. 41 walks. So they're walking a little over 1 per 2 innings. So, let's call it, like 4.5 walks per 9, which is a little high. It's not crazy high. It's nothing terrible, but like, if you're giving up 78 more hits than innings pitched, that becomes a problem. 82 strikeouts. So they're missing bats decent enough, but they're still, it's not a huge number. And pitching was supposed to be one of their strengths. Kyle Johnson has not pitched well. 9 innings, 9 hits. 5 walks, 9 strikeouts. So he's given up. I mean, he's getting 14 base runners in 9 innings pitched. Basically a whip of 1.5. Right, that's not going to play if you're a weekend starter. It's supposed to be a really good arm. Ryan Higgins is doing decent. And then let's look down here. James Talon really struggling. 4 2/3 innings and 2 starts. 4 hits given up, 4 walks, right? So again, he's giving up 2 base runners per inning, essentially. Even though he's striking out, he's got 6 strikeouts. So honestly, I'm just going to give you guys my opinion. Looking at these numbers for Duke, I think Duke, I'm way more bullish on Duke than like NC State. NC State, the numbers do not look good. They're not driving the ball. They're not getting on base. They're not pitching well. Duke is actually driving the ball well. They're getting on base. And let's look at how many runs they've scored, and we'll look at the defense too, because that's part that may be a big issue. So Duke has scored 70 runs in 8 games. So they're close to they're very close to 10 runs a game. So the offense is taking care of business. I'm going to be dead honest. The offense for Duke is taking care of business. Pitching staff, but again, the pitching staff's not doing terrible. They're not doing as well as you would have expected, but they're really not doing bad. But let's look at the defense here. And now we know. Now we know, right? 13 errors. And let's look at this differential. 13 errors in 8 games. So they're making more than 1.5 errors per game. Their opponents have made 4. This is how you lose 4 games. This is how you go 4-4. When your opponents are playing very clean defense and your team is not, and your pitching staff's doing okay but not amazing, all of a sudden you're giving up a lot of unearned runs. And we can go back to the pitching and look up the difference in earned runs and unearned runs. Okay, so earned runs, 43, which is them pitching to a 5-2. They've actually given up 59. So let's get the calculators out and our pocket protectors. All right, so let's go. All right. So basically, Duke's pitching staff has thrown to a 5-2-3, but they're giving up about 6.5 runs per game on average. And let's look at the schedule just so we can see what just happened here. What just happened here? Okay. Game by game. So they lose to Cincinnati 3-8. Okay, and you know what? Here, I think we got some more info here. This is why you got to go deep. Is again because you look at those numbers on a whole, just from the box score, and just like the season statistics, and you're like, man, this doesn't make sense why they're 4-4. So they lose Cincinnati 3-8. They beat Cincinnati 6-5. They lose 5-19, in which they probably gave up a lot of unearned runs. Then they beat UNC Wilmington 8-4, so they're 2-2. Lose to Cornell 8-11, and then their offensive numbers are really boosted by these 2 games right here. They beat Cornell 16-2, and they beat Cornell 18-1. So not only are their pitching numbers, again, this is why numbers can be misleading, and you have to look at the game by game as well. If the numbers, you notice how I'm talking about Duke, and I'm like, man, these numbers aren't that bad. How are they 4-4? Well, look at these 2 games against Cornell. They win 16-2. So this boosted the pitching numbers. This boosted the offensive numbers. And then this game did the same thing. So the numbers are a little bit misleading when we look at them because they had 2 massive games for both the pitching and the offensive side where they scored 16 and 18 runs and only gave up 2 and 1 run. right? That's why you have to kind of look deeper into it. And so again, I think Duke again is I'm still more bullish on Duke, like kind of bouncing back, but this does put a little doubt on it. The fact that like those numbers are pretty boosted by these 2 games. Now we know with Chris Pollard at the helm, like they're probably going to bounce back and be fine. And the same could be true for NC State at in Elliott Avant. I just think NC State doesn't have. I just don't think their team is as good. I just don't think they have the offense, and I don't think they have the starting pitching. Even though their starting pitching has been probably pretty much the brightest spot for NC State right now, I don't think when they get an ACC play that the starting pitching will be a strength. But we'll see. We'll see. But all right, guys, I'm gonna end it there. Obviously, we got some games coming up here, so let's stay in the loop. Let me know which games you guys are watching. Send me DMs on if you guys see like interesting stuff happening. Send me some DMs so we can cover it, talk about it tomorrow. And then we'll be back again tomorrow with another stream. So, looking forward to talking to you guys again tomorrow. Thanks for all the chat and the comments and everything like that. Great discussions. We will.